Alright, hey everybody. It's Saturday before deer season, and we're headed to the Slate's camp to do a little talk with Ron, and he can tell us a little bit about the camp. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you there. Well, thank you for having us. We're really happy to be here. And if you could tell us a little bit about the camp, that would be great.
Great. This all started with my grandfather, George Bonestell. He came up here. He was an outdoorsman, and my brother and I lost our father in the war, and we went to live with my grandparents. My mother and my sister and my brother and I went to live with my grandparents. And my grandfather was always looking for a place, and first thing he did is he found a place in Woodland Valley that he rented. And he didn't like that after a while, and he decided he's going to look for a piece of property, and came up here and found this piece of property up here and bought all the property way up into the valley. And then he was the man that was very frugal, and every week when he got his paycheck, he'd go down to the cellar and put money away in a half and half coffee can. And when he got enough money so he could, after he bought the property, he said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build the camp, and I'm going to pay for everything. And it was ironical because at that time they were tearing down buildings in Kingston. And when they were tearing the buildings down, he rode by and he stopped and asked him if he could salvage. And he started salvaging pieces of wood and the flooring, all the flooring that's in here. And believe it or not, when he first started and he framed this building up, he didn't have enough money to buy sheetrock, so he got cardboard. And he literally brought cardboard up and stapled it onto the two by fours, but there was no such thing as 16-inch centers. He just put them wherever he felt like it and stapled it on, and then he wallpapered over top of it himself. And that's how the cabin got started. And then he started saving money. He wanted to do a fireplace, and he heard about this German man that did beautiful fireplaces with cobblestone. And they got together on weekends up here, and they started picking the cobblestones out of the stream. And they laid the whole fireplace out on the lawn. And he marked, this German man marked every cobblestone so that the cobblestones would be exactly on the fireplace as they laid it out on the lawn. And everybody has talked through the years about this, how beautiful this fireplace is, because the man was an absolute artist. He was fantastic at what he did. And my brother and I, as young men, we all really didn't have a choice. We had to hunt. And it's hard for people to believe, but I grew up in a house where my grandfather had beagles. Every Saturday, my brother and I had no choice. We had to hunt rabbits. And We learned how to hunt rabbits and squirrel and partridge at, at an early age. And my grandfather introduced us to boots and to guns and how to and helped us to buy our first gun. And I even brought one of my first guns up with me. I shot guns and 22s to start out with, 410, went to 16 gauge, went to 12 gauge, went to 3-inch magnums. Um, and it was just it was a great life, but as a young man it wasn't so easy because on weekends as you got older and you got in your teens you really didn't want to go hunting. That's it, 15, 16 years old on a Saturday you wanted to go out and chase little girls, but it didn't work out that way. um, and, uh, I look back at it now. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'll never be sorry that I learned that part of my life from my grandfather. He left us wonderful memories. And then the camp, we just started making renovations to as the money came in, and pretty soon we got this the mountain siding on it, and changed the inside and put in the beginning there was no petitions inside at all. It was just one great big room with a fireplace. And there was times when we had 14, 16 people here for deer season, sleeping on the floor or on cots. And of course, back in those days, my grandfather, all of his friends were drinkers, so it was a wild time. My brother and I were introduced to a lot of things early in life because of it, but it was great. The property itself was purchased in 1948, and in 1948, my grandfather started building the camp. Didn't have any back in those days. There were no contractors. You did it yourself, and you did it the best way. And your friends came and they helped you, and uh, just weekend after weekend of hard work, they made this camp into a reality. But there wasn't a time. Well, I should say one of my grandfather's best friends was a carpenter, and another one of his best friends was a plumber. And between those two, they put in the plumbing and everything. We didn't have a before. We never had a well. All we had was literally a pipe driven down in the ground, and we got enough water out of that thing, and it lasted for probably at least 35 or 40 years before we had a well drilled.
Wow.
It was basically as as crude and rude as you could possibly get at the time. But
Did you always have electric?
No, in the beginning we didn't have electric. In the beginning we literally had lanterns, not gas lanterns, the old type of lanterns. And then electric came along when my grandfather got enough money, and it was always based on the fact that if my grandfather, we called him Pa, P-A, and if Pa wanted something, he would just he was going in the cellar more times than normal, and you knew it. Nobody believes it, but my grandfather literally would take on every single paycheck and go in the cellar and put money down there, and we never knew how much. Back and he worked for 48 years for Hercules Powder Company in Port Ewan, and never made any serious money, but he always believed, and he taught my brother and I, no matter what you do in life, you always take 10% of your paycheck and put it away. Regardless of how much you make, you take 10% and put it away. And my grandfather, when he was making $18 a week, would go down in the cellar and put $2 in the cellar. And he put it in coffee can after coffee can, and I can't begin to tell you how many hundreds of coffee cans. He smoked half and half tobacco, and he smoked a pipe with half and half. And as soon as he emptied the can, he'd go and say he'd clean it out and take it down in the cellar and start filling it up. And it was filled up with just, through the course of a lot of time, he was literally thousands of dollars in $1 bills in the cellar in coffee cans.
Yeah.
And everything up here was paid for with that money as he accumulated it. So a lot of sacrifices on his part, really not a lot of sacrifices on our part as far as living with him. We never wanted for anything, but my brother was older than I was, and I wore his shoes, and I wore his pants, and I wore his coats. And he got the first bicycle, and when I got the bicycle, I had to get a brush out and paint it up a little bit. But that's the kind of life we had. I never regretted any of it. I was very, very fortunate. Having lost my father in the war, um, I thought my life was going to be really hard, but my grandparents made it so that they took us in a little small house on Salem Street, and three kids, my mother and the three of us, and we made do, you know. Slept in the same room with my brother, and the room was half the size of this porch. Yeah. But it I never looked back at it and thought, I wish I would have had that. I wish I would have had that. No, I look back and I think to myself, I had a great childhood. So it was all due to my grandfather.
Wow.
I shouldn't say just my grandfather, because my grandmother was a saint also.
Yeah.
But my mother was a prince of all princes. She was a lady's lady. Everybody in Port Huron that's still alive, that is in their 70s, 80s, 90s, they knew my mother. Everybody says that Ethel was one of the nicest ladies that ever lived in Port Huron. She just was outgoing, always giving, very involved in the church. Just a wonderful, wonderful lady.
Amazing. All right. Should we take a look inside?
Yeah, let's go inside.
All right. Okay, here we are inside.
I think one of the most important things inside to comment on is the fireplace. The fireplace has always been a very important part of this camp. It meant the world to us. If you can close in on that picture, you'll get it. That's my grandfather with the buck that mounted above it. That deer is that 8-pointer there. That deer dressed out at 189 pounds dressed out.
Wow.
Really, really. And that was the first nice, really rack deer that my grandfather ever shot. It used to be in the early years, everybody would comment, it used to be that was a really dominant face. But now you can hardly see
that.
it
Yeah,
anymore. But
still...
at one time, every time people walked in, they'd say, "Look at that face in that stone."
Yeah, and that's probably why he put it there, huh?
Yeah, and that's why they put it there. This stone used to be a beautiful stone when it was clean, but the fireplace, you know, no matter what I tried to do to get that black off, it won't come. It's so deep and embedded into the cobblestone. Okay. This bear was shot up in Silver Hollow up here. One of my grandfather's best friends shot that bear, and we had it mounted so we'd have a bear in the camp.
That's beautiful.
This deer here is a buck that I shot in Pennsylvania. There's a cobweb on it.
Amazing.
This deer here I shot that way up above the snowmobile trail up in Silver Hollow here, way up as far as you can go. And that was the first big buck deer that I ever shot. I shot a lot of deer prior to that, but never with a rack like this one. That was one of the happiest days of my life.
Do you remember? Wow.
And that dressed out about 160 pounds. That was a good sized deer. But there was such a story behind that, because I was hunting with 4 guys, and George Peterson was one of them, and he came up and helped me, and we're dragging it down. And 2 of my best friends were coming up the mountain to try and see what I had shot. And they got close by, and I took the deer, and I took and put my coat over its antlers. And I said, "Boy, I'm sorry to tell you guys." I said, "I'm glad you came up to help me, but I shot a little tiny doe." And they're looking at me going, "Oh." And we walked up, and then I pulled my coat off its antlers. That was really, they were, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. This is for up here. That's a great buck."
Yeah. Wow.
And as you go around, there's more deer. Each one of them has a story. That's one of my best friends in the world shot that deer, and I had that done because I thought that was unique that they come across.
That is incredible. I've never seen one like that.
Yeah.
And that was around here too, huh?
Yeah, that was up on Carl Mountain, and he had a lever action 30-30 no scope, and he shot 9 times at that deer, and only hit it once. But that was the way that Johnny McDonald hunting, he always liked to lever them out. He had the old-fashioned 30-30 lever action.
Wow.
This deer was shot on Coral Mountain also, and that was shot by my brother's son, Bruce. The deer up above it here, that was a deer shot by my brother. That was the first rack deer that my brother shot. He shot a lot of small ones, spike horns and stuff, but that was the first deer that he shot with horns, and that was shot right up on the mountain over here, right up on Tremper. This is the first wood duck that I shot. I mean, I'm a duck hunter. I duck hunted for 30-some years, and that was the first one that I shot.
Amazing.
And I mounted it, and it stayed.
Yeah, it really did.
It stayed pretty darn good. It's starting to look a little weathered, but not too bad.
Yeah. And what about this guy right behind you?
This guy behind me was shot on Hurley Mountain. That's not native deer. The rack was so beautiful that I wanted to put it up here.
Amazing.
When I first started hunting, the first rifle, believe it or not, my brother had been hunting a lot, and he loved the 300 Savage, but after a while he decided to go and he bought himself a Mannlicher 30-06, and he traded this in at Potter Brothers Sporting Goods shop. I started hunting. I had gone through college, and then I went in the military, and I was a year and a half in Korea. When I got back from Korea, I wanted to start hunting. My brother said, "Well, let's go up to Potter's and we'll see if we can get a gun." And we went up, and lo and behold, Bud Potter had the 300 on the shelf for sale, and I said, "I'll get that one," and I bought that one, and that's this rifle. And I honestly and truthfully, this is a different stock on it because I fell down and I literally cracked the other one right in half. So I had a new one put on, and at the time I had it re-blued, but just from carrying it so much, you can see the bluing come right off after a while. But you don't have to worry about ammunition. There's nothing in any of them. But this was a great one. I mean, this old Weaver scope on that one.
Yeah.
And then I decided that after a while that rifle just got too heavy. So I decided to get a smaller rifle. And this is the Model 7, the Remington Model 7. And this is light as could be. It's got a Nikon scope on it, a variable scope. This is great for up here in the mountain hunting. This is fantastic. I shot a lot. Just the other day, I sighted this rifle in, and I have literally always used on this rifle federal ammunition. I went over to my cousin Paul's, and I sighted it in, and when I went in my gun cabinet, I grabbed 2 boxes of shells. And lo and behold, the first box of shells, I didn't even bother. When I went over there, I put 3 in. I'm not bragging, but I'm a pretty good shot. I mean, at 100 yards, I mean, I can almost drive tacks. And I shot, and I was 6 inches to the left and above the bull. Now, I had a whole complete deer with a red dot on the heart. And I'm 6 inches above the dot. And I'm saying, this is impossible. Paulie said to me, he said, why are you using Remington shells? You're a federal guy. I looked down and I said, I don't know. I didn't even think about it. So I put 3 more in, and I put federals in. I put all 3 of them right in.
Amazing,
right
huh?
in the thing.
You wouldn't think that would have
6 inches
that much of a difference,
right? Yeah.
Wow.
This was my father-in-law's rifle, and this is a Winchester Model 70, and as you can see, it's in immaculate, perfect condition. I received that after my father-in-law died. My brother-in-law gave me this rifle. It shoots beautiful. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's got a Nikon variable scope on it, but the thing is heavy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just too heavy for mountain climbing.
And what caliber is that again?
This is a 270.
270. Huh.
Gun that my grandfather bought me. Didn't have the scope on it at first, but this is a Mossberg 22 with a clip in it, right? And this, I mean, can you imagine in the old days, right? I mean, and this thing still, I go out on the thing out here, I literally can almost put them right alongside of each other. This thing is so accurate. This scope, It's terrible. I mean, you just unbelievable. Even the size of it is so
Wow.
small. So small.
It's probably
but
just the naked eye, right? It's not even a power,
that's
or
right.
maybe
Yeah.
1 power.
No, it's 4 power.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but it's terrible. But I still drive nails with it. It's really.
And that's one of the ones your grandfather gave you.
That's, yeah, it was the first gun. And this is the second gun that my grandfather bought for me. And this is a 16 gauge pump, 870.
And did that take your first wood duck over there?
Yes, yeah, that took my first wood duck. And then, of course, we all advanced. I have at home 3 12 gauge, 3-inch magnums of all different. Every one of my shotguns is 870s. I never went for the automatic.
Yep.
I don't know why, but even if I shot an automatic, my hand, I find it wanting to pump.
Wow. So. Fixed choke, right? No screw-ins back then.
That's right.
Wow.
This is the first pistol I ever bought. I have quite a few pistols, but this is the first pistol that I ever bought, and I bought this in 1956. This is the Browning Challenger, and this is a beautiful pistol.
22?
22, yeah.
Wow.
And I've never been a good shot with a pistol. I don't know why, but
I don't think too many people can claim to be.
No.
Wow. Thank you for showing us.
Yeah. You can start here. This is a DU print that my wife bought everything at DU dinners, right? That was one of the first ones that she bought. This was at the first animal festival that they had in Kingston. I don't even remember what year it was.
Beautiful wallpaper too.
Yeah,
that is just amazing.
And one of my best friends and I did this all together ourselves. We redid this whole complete room. Back in those days, all of this came from DU. This is down at my river house fishing with Jim years ago.
Amazing. So is this your bedroom when all the hunters come?
No, this is Jim's bedroom.
Okay.
It was my grandfather's bedroom, and it became my brother's bedroom. My bedroom is next door.
Okay.
And as you can see, even the comforters are DU. This is Ducks Unlimited. I always loved this.
Yeah. And
this is my bedroom. One of my favorite DU prints.
Just beautiful.
And I'm a Terry Redland nut. If you can look over there, this is sort of my decor. I did this just because I'm a trout fisherman also. But this is unique. This was shot up on Carl Mountain.
Wow.
And these are all flies that were tied by my brother's son.
Wow.
That's inside is a booze rack.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Amazing.
One of my good friends, Chip McDonald, built this for me.
Wow.
That's about it, I think.
Okay.
I wanted to show you this too.
Sure. So the kitchen's a lot bigger than it used to be?
Yeah, the kitchen used to be this only.
Okay.
And we added this whole addition on and extended the whole thing.
It was a great little addition.
And that's the buck that I keep praying I'll see.
I'm sure there's been a lot of good meals cooked here during deer season.
My brother was a fantastic cook, and he would prepare some absolutely awesome, and he loved to cook game, especially trout and venison, and believe it or not, partridge, pheasant he cooked up here for us. He was just a great cook outdoors, a wildlife cook.
Okay. So tell me who's here in the picture.
The person on the left is George Peterson. He was my hunting partner for probably 30 some years, and unfortunately he's very ill now and home with a what you call a mask on all the time for breathing. This is me. That's Paul Richard, my cousin in the background. This is Tim, and Tim unfortunately worked at the cement plant and literally drove a truck accidentally off a cliff, and he lost him. This is Joe Wenzel. He hunted with all of us up here for probably at least 25 years. Joe's still around. And that's just up on top of the mountain. If I remember correctly, I'm trying to think of where it was. I think it was over in the corner over here. Mm. About that.
Yeah.
Where did that light come from, Jim?
you?
It's a beautiful light. I remember that
Who
light.
bought that?
Me.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. My wife fell in love with that too.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Always liked that a lot. On the foundation and go up where all the rock ledges are, where they used to mine the stone out, and I would go up around that corner, and I don't know, there was probably at least 10 times where I got up around that corner and looked at a buck. There was some bad stories and some good stories. I shot my first 5-pointer, which is out in the garage, and I think I shot 2 more smaller deer, fork horn, a spike horn, all in that area. And my buddy George shot that deer and shot that deer on the left-hand side of Carl Mountain also. So Carl Mountain gave us some of the best memories that we had. I also, off to the right of Carl Mountain, if you look up at it, up in really the far right-hand corner, my brother was hunting with me. A lot of other guys, there was a whole bunch of us up there, and that was the first nice, beautiful deer that I shot. That's out in the garage also, because I don't have room in the cabin for all of them. That's a 6-pointer, which is almost as big as that deer. And that deer was the first deer that I ever shot that was running wide open, fast as could be, and I shot him with the 300 Savage. All I did was see fur in the scope, and I pulled the trigger, and I couldn't believe it when all of a sudden he just crumbled and fell. I couldn't believe that I got him, because he was just running wide open. It was just a lucky shot. Peterson and I together, and this is what the front of the porch looked like before we put the addition on. This is my brother's son Bobby with his first buck deer that he shot up here, and that was shot right up on the side of the mountain over here to the right.
So this is the camp next door, huh?
Yeah, that's Paulie's before he changed it into a home. This is Paulie. This is my brother Hart. This is George. Jerry Sowers. I'm trying to think who all these people. This is Donnie Reese. Can't remember all these names. Some of them are deceased now. Peterson and I had 8 fireplaces that we built all throughout the whole valley. Almost every spot that you can think of, from Carl Mountain all the way over to Mackey Springs here, and from up on the first small bowl all the way over to the small bowl to right on over to the snowmobile trail. We had fireplaces that we built. And we literally spent time, we'd be hunting, and maybe 10 or 11 o'clock I'd meet him, and we'd get all the stones together and build a beautiful fireplace. And we named it Fireplace 1, 2, 3 right on through. And George and I hunted together so much, we'd go in the woods with him, and 10 hours later, I say to him, meet me at Fireplace number 3, and he'd be there. Yeah, I mean, we just had it down pat. And we would, it was hilarious, because I would carry all the condiments, and he would carry the hot dogs. I would carry the rolls, the ketchup, and the relish in little packages, and I had a big bag full of them. And we would meet and literally start a fire and cook those hot dogs on the mountain. And believe it or not, quite a few times, within 10 or 15 minutes after we put the fire out, we walk away from each other, and one of us had was shot at something. We used to say that they were smelling the hot dogs. That's what they were coming to get a hot dog. But that was back when we had got $3 that year. But look, we had 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys hunting. That is me.
Wow.
And this is a buck that he shot up here back, I don't know, it's got to be in the 40s. That Mercury, I remember that black Mercury that he had.
Wow.
That was my grandfather. That's my grandfather.
Amazing.
Every single year, for as long back as I can remember, we always have a hunter's dinner. And it's strictly for the deer hunters, the guys that come up here and hunt. And this year it's going to be at Paulie's. And we got right now, I think, 10 guys coming. We used to always have the hunt would be venison, but now we don't get the deer anymore, so we go out and buy expensive steak, which is a heartbreaker to me. But everybody chips in, and one guy makes twice baked potatoes, and another guy does a vegetable, and another guy does a salad, another guy gets the breads, and then we buy all the steak, and we go up to it, which we go to, what's the place just outside of Saugerties?
Veterans?
Veterans, and we order it way ahead of time. And we cook it on the grill either over there or here. Last year we did it here, so I think this year is going to be over at Paulie's.
Nice.
But that's a big tradition that's been going on forever. And then one night every year, Jim doesn't come up deer hunting, but I bring him up one night for dinner, and he comes up every single year, and we have a traditional dinner here also. And that, through the course of time, used to be duck, it used to be pheasant. Tom Riley, that hunted up here for years, he's a member of the gun club, and we're, with the pheasants out there, and he'd bring up a bunch of pheasants. And again, my brother was the greatest cook, and he would cook pheasant that was just to die for.
Wow.
I mean, just absolutely great. But we still all look forward to the party, because it becomes what we do is, since the season opens on Saturday, we have the party on Sunday night. So you can get Saturday hunting in and Sunday in, and then we party on Sunday night. So usually about half of us don't hunt on Monday. And there's a lot of drinking that goes on, and a lot of partying, and just having a great time.
Yep.
Look forward to that every year.
Wow. Okay.
This was my grandfather's, and he wore it up here continuously all the time. And at the time it was the most popular name in coats. Everybody had this coat, and it's a Johnson. And everybody knows about the old-fashioned Johnson coats. Everybody had these, along with the dark green wool pants, right? And it fell apart, and one day I looked at it and I thought to myself, it's got such memories. And I took it to a girl in Port Ewan on Salem Street, Debbie Lamb. You probably know them. And her husband is Jim, and he was a fireman at Port Ewan. But it had rips and holes in it. And I said to her, "You think you can salvage this?" And she looked at it and she said, "Sure." And she went about it and she salvaged it. And there's so many places where she patched it together.
Amazing.
So now I bring it up, and
Nice.
my grandfather always kept it right here, so I keep it there. And that's when I fill the wood box, I have to fill it with that.
Wow.
It's a
Great
little
story.
Little crazy history.
Great story.